Good to be South African. I'll tell you that, yes, I'm coming to the no in a moment. It is good to be South African. And because it is so good to be South African, we are all here today to fight to make South Africa even better. If you thought that it wasn't good to be South African, you wouldn't be here. The second thing I want to say is this, that all of you represent the army of development workers. Now, army is a matter of discipline, right? You won't be in an army if you're not disciplined, if you can't march, if you can't hold your gun, whatever it is, if you can't crawl on the dangerous places. You can't be part of an army because you're a liability, you're a danger. But this is an army that is there to mobilize our people for a better life. In other words, to take our resources as we have them, and that our resources will actually make our lives collectively better today than they were yesterday. So we're this army of development workers that has brought us together today. So it is good to be here. If you didn't believe it, you wouldn't appreciate or believe, do you, that South Africa, many times over, 2 times world champions in rugby, at the moment consistently to be the almost unconquerable rugby nation in the world today. Who doubts that? You don't believe that? Raise your hand. Right? That's true. And that's what makes us South Africans, is that we're a winning nation. The other day, the South African cricket team beat India, something that it has never done before, in India. If you don't believe that South Africa is a great nation, you wouldn't believe that South Africa beat India last week for the first time ever in India. So we're a country of amazing possibilities. And we're here because we affirm that we're a nation of amazing possibilities. If you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be here. So I want you to have that sense of self-belief. They say that South Africans are an amazing nation. We sing and we toy when we're angry. We sing and we toy when, during those days, we were killing people who didn't agree with us. We sing and toy or dance when children are born, when people die. We sing when we are in solidarity in terms of our political messages. We sing and we toy when we are at war. South Africans are well known for singing and toying. I didn't know what to make of it the other day when the G20 was finishing. South Africans, I don't know how many of them were there in that plenary hall. They break up in singing and dancing, and the presidents of the world joined them. Did you hear me? And the presidents of the world joined them because they were affirming this truth that it is good to be South African. Program Director, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for directing us today. I wish to acknowledge in particular today the Honorable Minister of Social Development, Honorable Dolashe, who is with us today. The MECs for Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture from the Eastern Cape, Ms. Sibulele Ngongo. the MEC for Social Development in Gauteng, Ms. Faith Mazibuko. I haven't seen her yet, but I assume she's here. The MEC for Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture in the Northwest Province, Ms. Virginia Tlapi. I haven't seen her either. I hope she is here. The MEC for Education, Sports, Arts and Culture in Gauteng Province, Mr. Matome Shilwane. Wonderful to have you all here. And the MEC of KZN Social Development, Ms. Mbali Shinga, all here. You already know, and we welcome the Executive Mayor of the city of Ekurhuleni, His Worshipful Alderman Kosindi Pile Xhakaza. Sir, thank you very much for your very warm welcome and a commitment to partnership with the National Lotteries Commission. I want to acknowledge my colleagues in the board of the National Lotteries Commission, sitting here in the front. Beginning from that end, Mr. Lionel October. It's important that they stand, I think, so that when you see them, you walk around, you actually can chat with them and ask whatever you want. Mr. Lionel October is a member of the board. Mrs. Irene Ramafula is also a member of the board. Mrs. Beryl Ferguson is also a member of the board. Mrs. Mvulane Precious is also a member of the board. And Mr. Bonakele Tembingosa, I saw him, oh, there he is also a member of the board. Now, it's important to realize that each of the members of the board chairs a committee of the board, each and every one of them, which really means that they have a particular knowledge of what it takes to actually grow this organization. We have already heard from the Commissioner, Ms. Jody Scholz, and together with the executives and senior managers of the NLC, whom I'm not going to introduce, who are here today as well. There are leaders of various government departments here, provincial and national. There are officials, especially in state-owned entities. And for us, the executive authority of the National Lotteries Commission, Minister Parks Tao, has offered an apology because at this time, I think, she's engaged in a bilateral between AU and Europe, European Commission in Angola. Welcome all of you as grantees and beneficiaries and partners of the National Lotteries Commission. The staff of the Commission from all provinces, wherever they may be at the moment, we actually welcome all of you. Now, when I became the chairperson of the National Lotteries Commission on the 1st of September 2022, I made two main commitments to myself. One was to say that the National Lotteries Commission will hold an Indaba, which was last held, I understand, in 2017, in order to interact with its various publics, both the government of the country, the ground forces. I know there's a political party that talks about that, but that's not the way by which I mean it. Those who are actually engaged on the ground to make the lives of people improve. I say that it is important for us to hear one another, to engage with one another. It's important for us to have a sense of self-belief, because the task that we have been entrusted with is huge. it is not possible to undertake this enormous task. As you heard from Stats SA, the challenge we have is to transform the lives of our people in very fundamental ways. We are here together because we believe it can be done. And we believe that it will be done by us and nobody else, right? Because if you're waiting for some messiah from somewhere, I tell you it's never going to happen. So we believe that it is possible for it to be done. The second thing that I said is that it was imperative that we have a constructive strategy for the National Lotteries Commission. Let me give you 3 reasons why we need this strategy. One reason, of course, is the obvious one, that the National Lotteries Commission has been around for 25 years. Well, by the way, 25 years, yes, question mark. There's a gentleman on television the other day who was asked what his age was, and he said, well, you know, I was 15 years old, and he said, no, but previously you said you were 13 years old. How could you have been in MK when you were 13? He says, no. That's what Home Affairs says. But my mother tells me that I was 15 years old. So the authority between the mother and Home Affairs is what is at issue. Right now, the National Lotteries Commission believes that it actually began operations in 1999. But the Act was passed in 1997. And for the time it took to actually operationalize the National Lotteries Commission would be the difference between those 2 years. The gentleman there didn't tell us how the 2 years gets accounted for. I've just given you an example of how the 2 years can be accounted for. I suppose he was being operationalized, you know, for the 2 years that is missing in his life. So what I want to do today, for your benefit and for ours, is to introduce to you the strategic plan of the National Lotteries Commission. It is very important that I do so because we want to interact with you about where the National Lotteries Commission is going. If you ask me, we inherited this position at a particular time where all that was being talked about was corruption in the National Lotteries Commission. And let me tell you, it needed to be talked about because the extent of corruption was so humongous, so much that it was almost unbelievable that it was possible, that it could happen to the scale that it did. And also you can almost imagine how many South Africans could have had their lives improved had it not been for that scale of corruption. Yes, we did right. Yes, we spent a lot of time trying to restructure the organization in order to be able to improve the possibilities of serving the people for whom these resources were intended. And we almost feel that by now, we want to be able to say today, I think we can say fairly confidently, that if you're a staff member, a board member, or an NGO, you think you can continue to steal money that doesn't belong to you. I tell you now, the chances are you'll be found out and you'll go to jail. That time of things happening and people didn't mind, didn't care, it's gone, it's finished. Never again. So even now, we still are discovering elements of corruption in the organization. The only difference is the organization is completely clear. You do it You lose your job, you'll go to jail. So we want to make that clear. That is what is bound to happen. Now, the thing that I want us to address by this charter, this strategic plan. You know, South Africans are very, very cynical people, right? You've noticed the cynicism that you say, it's good to be South African, South African, but it's objectively true that it is good to be South African, right? But there will be people who say, by the way, if you say to them, but we've just had a G20 that was fantastic and all the world was congratulating us, I say, oh yeah, but it doesn't have this. And yeah, we need to deal with cynicism. It doesn't help to be cynical. Instead, find a strategy to overcome, right? Work on a strategy to overcome. And we want to help you to have a positive outlook in life. And when we have a positive outlook, then we pull ourselves up with our bootstraps and we begin to be the net development partners to this country, to this institution. The second thing I want to say, in the 25 years, a lot has changed. A lot has changed in South Africa and in the world in 25 years. The most important one is that South Africa now has a national development program. It may look like it doesn't improve your lives in a particular way, but at least we have made the effort to say that how do we become a developmental nation? And we need to really begin to structure every aspect of our lives as a developmental activity. Our economy, our technology, our innovation, our education, our social development living. We should buy into the idea of being a developmental nation. So because of that, in 1997, there's only one place where the idea, even the word development appears. It's only in the regulations. Only in the regulations for determining good causes for grants. It doesn't appear anywhere else. So our intention now is to uplift the idea of development and make it a responsibility for each and every one of us. Because without that, those statistics that you heard being read here, and we wait for government, will never get any better. And yet it will get better. The second thing that I think we need to address as South Africans is this idea that we can sit back and wait for government. Okay, government is going to do this, and government, my roof is leaking, and there was rain, government, this, government, that. That's the biggest mistake that the South African government ever made. I know that President Mandela said to you and I very clearly, don't worry, the ANC will do it for you. You want me to tell you the truth? That time is gone. Until we can learn to be the people who are self-developmental, use our resources as communities in order to develop our time and our lives. We don't wait for some messiah. It doesn't matter whether it's government, whatever it is. There's no messiah who's going to come and improve our lives. We better do it ourselves. Now, the backdrop of that is that that is part of the threats we have and we live with. South Africans think that it is possible. It is possible to take that which does not belong to you, that belongs to the common estate, and enrich yourself in it and think that it will still be there tomorrow. If you take that which belongs to everybody and make it yours, it means it's not available to those people, right? It's logic. So South Africans will actually see wrongdoing happening and people being robbed and taken away from them, and they look the other way. And they do nothing about it. They don't report to the police. They don't stop it from happening. Instead, if possible, they'll go there and see, what can I get? It's a mindset. We need to change our mindset. In other words, what I'm asking you is that we need to be more human. In other words, we need to understand that the plight of the other is the plight of each and every one of us. There is so much chaos and crime in our country just because certain of us allowed it to happen. We allowed it to happen. We did all that we could to destroy government, the capacity of government to govern. We are doing all that, if anything that is in the media today is anything to go by. We've done everything to make sure that policing doesn't happen. Because if it happens, then I'm not likely to be able to get what I require from tenders or what have you. It doesn't matter that I've taken, out of 360 million, I've taken 200 million and given it to certain political actors. And therefore, the people in the hospital lie there without any medicine, without any linen, and no doctors. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We must teach ourselves that, for God's sake, it matters. It matters when the resources that should have been available to help other people are no longer available, because I thought I do what I like with them and buy 4 Lamborghinis and have them one color, all of them, and not have anywhere to put them, and build houses that are beyond what I can afford. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying to you is that we need to change our mindset as a people. The National Lotteries Commission was the magic idea of the government at that time, of the new South African government. It was a magic idea. It was an idea that was beginning to say to us South Africans, you know what? It matters. We must build our country together. It's not going to happen otherwise. And so quickly, I'm just going to talk about the vision, mission, and values that are in the strategy we have. Because I'm telling you this so that you can hold us accountable. If any of it doesn't happen, you hold us accountable. The Parliamentary Portfolio Committee holds us accountable. If the resources are not used to serve the purpose for which we intended to serve, we must be held accountable. I'm telling you so that you should be aware what the terrain that we seek to cover is about. What's our vision? You'll notice that this vision has been structured in such a way as to really capture much of what I'm talking about. Our vision is to establish a lottery industry. I heard yesterday that we shouldn't be talking about lottery industry. We should talk about a lottery sector that is credible, that is trustworthy, that is efficient, and that is technology-driven. You see, if people are cynical, they no longer believe any of us can do anything good. Part of that cynicism, is the idea that, you work for government, you must be stealing. You're a thief. And until you prove it otherwise. If you're trying to do something like this, they say to the NLC, there's a lot of sort of mirrors and all that, and smoke and mirrors that's going on. You don't know what's actually happening. No, man. You must hold us accountable with truth. We must be trustworthy. If people are expecting to receive their resources because they've applied for them and they've been granted to them, they must receive it. That's assurance that they have. That is why we are a regulator, so that the interests of the public are protected and assured. That is why there is a national operator of the lottery, that they will not promise, I tell you, they will not promise a big jackpot if they don't have money to pay the jackpot, right? And we see to it that that doesn't happen. It must be efficient. It must be efficient in processing not just the grants that are being applied for. It must be efficient in clarifying what is it that you need to do in order to access the grant that you need to do what is important for you wherever you are. So that you are clear in your mind, even when you apply, that I'm within the ambit of possibility of receiving this grant. Because I've thought it through, I'm going to do something that is very much within the ambit of what the lottery does. It must be technology driven, because at the moment there's artificial intelligence, everything is technology. I know that when Tutuka was introduced this year with all its teething problems, the beneficiaries and the applicants were very frustrated. We've been working very hard to make sure that without removing technology altogether, we make it efficient. We make it possible for you to be able to track how your grant is going. And we're on our way there. We're pleased about that. And therefore, the vision of the NLC is to build a society that abides by the constitutional values of human dignity, social justice, and an egalitarian society. Equality is important. We want a just society for all of us, for everybody. We want to abide by the values of human rights and human justice. If we fail in everything that we do to make sure fairness applies, equality applies, justice applies, you must hold us up to it. Such a future entails mutual assistance, community advancement, and promoting excellence in science, the arts, and culture. This is the kicker. This is not something that you can do alone. In African traditional society, it did not happen. When in the rural areas you have land, you are going to plant your maize in time for the rains that come in the summer. You don't stand there alone. You call all the people in the village. You do what is called ilima. It means that everybody is invested in your product that you do. And they do the same. You also, they do that for you. You also do it for the other person and the other. So that by the time you all finish, everybody has been involved in it, in the village. So that the net product of what you did is something that the entire village owns with pride. So this idea, it's a very Western, European, colonialist idea. This idea of thinking that you can succeed alone. In African culture, we don't succeed alone. If your neighbor has not succeeded, then you don't succeed. You need your neighbor in order to succeed. We need to pull those values back, which we might have forgotten them a long time ago. So it's those values that we're trying to say, this organization is bigger than it might seem. But actually without it, without this organization, really absolutely sticking its neck out and say, we are capable of being better than we are. We are capable of being better than we are. The mission, again, language that you have not heard before. The National Lotteries Commission is a statutory body established to regulate the lotteries in South Africa that applying the principles of transparency, openness, and fairness, and with due regard to the interests of all participants, distribute grants for worthy good causes, and thereby seeks to mobilize communities to become agents of development and care. Very often, I say this to you because many of you are engaged in working with your community. As far as we are concerned, the value of the work you do is in your contribution to the upliftment of your community. Not your own personal upliftment, your family, your brothers, your sisters, your grandchildren, and your whatever. It's about how you share and begin to say these resources we have are there for us to promote our entire community. So that's the basis of our work. The second thing is that each and every one of us must know that we are agents for good. We are agents of the common good. We are the agents of development. We are the agents of care. Whoever there's a care, if there's elderly people in our community, we take reasons to see how we can look after them. If there are orphans in the community in a vulnerable way, we see what can we do. And all we are saying is that is what the National Lotteries Commission is there for. To say that in my community there are families that are orphaned and no child-headed families. We want to do something about that. We need the National Lotteries Commission to help us to do it. That's what we're doing. That's what we do. That's what it is to be us as Africans. We don't want to simply look the other side when children are starving and dying. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are. The values, we said that the values that we seek to propound and to put out and defend is the value of Ubuntu. Exactly what I was talking about. The idea that you cannot be a human being in isolation. You can't. By the nature of things, what makes us human is that we are part of a community. And we are net contributors to that community. It's not other people who are going to make that community work. What makes that community a community of Ubuntu is because each and everyone are net contributors to that. And basically, there's nobody who has nothing to contribute. You've got something to contribute, whether it's in your mind or your passion or your compassion or just being there to work with other people to make a better community. Your goodwill about what is happening in your community is important. The Ubuntu is important. Umntu ngumntu ngabanye abantu. That's what it means. You cannot be a human being in isolation. It is not possible. You can't. So we need a kind of mindset, a kind of change that really is beginning to say to ourselves, you know what? The National Lotteries Commission has said that whenever we see a need, we can actually apply for good causes. That is what I mean by that. Now, you cannot do that, Ubuntu, if you are not communitarian, if you're not about the community, if you're not about the essence of what is being human, if you're not in solidarity with others who are in need, or in solidarity with others who want to make care for everybody else. In order for you to succeed, one, you must be accountable. Those are the values we have. One, you must have integrity, and you must commit to ethical conduct. If you are unethical or immoral in your superintendence of resources, like I said before, it is never going to go far enough to be able to help people who are doing. We need to have a heart that cares and respect for other people. We basically, what has happened in South Africa currently, let's face it, is that it is what has collapsed is our sense of values and humanity. Many of us are behaving like we're animals. the raping of children, of babies, the killing of young girls, the rape of women that has become, the president said the other day, a national crisis. Why? For what reason? No reason to do that. But nobody is safe in our communities. Why is that? Why do people live in fear? Old people live in fear. Children live in fear. Nobody can walk the streets of our communities at certain places because they live in fear. Why are South Africans living in so much fear? Why? It happens because we are not doing what we need to do to make sure that it's not going to happen. Now, here's my last word. You think I talk too much. Here's my last word. Listen to me. In this booklet, which you have in your files, I end my introduction there on page 4. And that's what I end with. We therefore present to the government and the people of South Africa this statement of strategy that will instill public confidence, align the NLC to the objectives of the state, and acknowledge the partnership with the state to promote public good. The partnership that we have with the state to promote public good. Government, by the way, cannot be government if it is not about common good. It's not about me. It's not about enriching myself. Anybody in government who's promoting himself alone is no good. You better get out of the way. So those of us who think that we're there to promote the common good, can actually get there and do it. We need to be quite upfront about that. We emphasize that the National Lottery exists for the public good. If you didn't know that, if you're a member of the staff or executive of the National Lottery Commission, if you run a project anywhere and you expect to get resources from the National Lotteries Commission, and you think you are not about the public good, forget it. Forget it. It's not going to happen. It is an investment. The National Lotteries Commission is an investment that the ordinary citizens make and out of which they receive the rewards or dividends of not just becoming millionaires, if you like, for personal benefit, but more importantly, that they produce collectively resources to promote the public good. That, in my mind, is Ubuntu. Thank you.
NLC Board Chairperson, Professor Bani Pityana, thank you very much. He holds nothing back and he tells it like it is. I've experienced him when I interview him at times, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, all right, let's move on now, and we're about to get the keynote address. And the professor, you've already heard him talk about how the NLC is deeply intertwined in this broader national mission of supporting vulnerable communities, strengthening households, and ensuring that civil society organizations are able to thrive. And so, our next speaker needs no introduction, but she does lead in this particular mandate I've just mentioned above, particularly at a national level, guiding social policy and championing programs that directly support families, young people, and older person, including communities across South Africa. Please help me welcome the Minister of Social Development, Ms. Nokuzola Sisisi Tolashe. Minister.
Thank you so much. Program Director, Mr. Xoli Mngambi. I'm happy when you say you come only with peace for the greatest change. no questions should be responded to today. You are going to listen to us, Xoli. We are not going to ask any question. Thank you so much. The chairperson of the board of the National Lottery Commission, our Professor Bani Pityana, and all board members here present. Members of the Executive Council from different provinces. I got to hear them being introduced, and note, dear chairperson, majority of them are women who are here today, which that talks to something that is known by South Africans, who is committed to change the people's lives for the better all the time. Those are the people that are here from their different provinces. Thank you very much, Manqobokazana. To the executive mayor of the city of Ekurhuleni, Mr. Nkosindi Phile Xakaza, our commissioner and his representative from South African Revenue Services, the statistician general, Simbiza SG, his office, Mr. Rizenga Malulega, the commissioner of the National Lotteries Commission, Ms. Jody Skolch, the Nedlek constituency head, Mr. Tulani Chefuta, the representatives of civil society organization, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Sanbonani, Dumelani, Molweni, Dimacholoni, Lochani, good morning, Sanbonani. At the outset, let me thank you, Professor Pityana, and the entire board of the National Lottery Commission board for your kind invitation and the opportunity to participate in this National Indaba under the theme, Effective Regulation and Funding Through Digitisation. This theme and the discussion at this National Indaba focusing on key thematic areas including compliance, sustainability, model for civil society organization, bridging the digital divide, and grant funding model for civil society. Especially in the face of the funding crisis, the sector could not be more timely. 5 days ago, in the run-up to the G20 Leaders Summit, and at this very same venue, President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered closing remarks at the G20 Social Summit, which has brought representatives of civil society across the African continent and beyond. During his address, President Ramaphosa said, I quote, "We have used our G20 president to reiterate the call for the world's leading economies to invest in the sustainable development and in the conservation of the planet for the future generation. But for the decision taken at the upcoming G20 Leadership Summit to stand tall, to grow, to have credibility and legitimacy, they have to be nourished by strong roots. These roots are our civil society and our community organization, women's organization, youth formations, academia, and think tank, business, labor, and other grassroots formation." I close quote. We are very pleased that the final G20 declaration, which was supported and overwhelmingly adopted by the G20 Leaders Summit, was heavily influenced by G20 Social Summit Declaration and Policy Pack. This reaffirms power of civil society as a catalyst for change and reform in an increasingly divided and unequal world. We are also pleased to see that NLC has wasted no time in ensuring that this National Indaba begins to practically deal with some of the key issues contained in the G20 Social Summit Declaration. The adoption of the G20 Declaration was due in so small measures that valuable contribution of many of you present in this conference today. I therefore take this opportunity to thank you for ensuring that the collective voice of the Global South can no longer be ignored and featured prominently on the G20 agenda going forward. We look forward to continuing working with you in ensuring that the G20 Declaration finds expressions in the work of our government as guided by the 3 strategic priorities of the medium-term development plan. Honorable Chair, Let me also take this opportunity to thank the NPO sector and regulatory authorities for working with us across the clock to fulfill the requirement of the recommendation 8 of the Financial Action Task Force. This is FATF. Thanks to your collaborative efforts, South Africa has officially exited the FATF grey list. I think I need hands on that one. I must, however, hasten to caution that we cannot afford to be complacent and run the risk of relapsing in the grey listing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Social Development has special interest on this National Indaba as it addresses some of the key challenges confronting the non-profit organization sector in South Africa. We all know securing funding is often a critical challenge for many NPOs, not only here in South Africa, but also across the globe due to financial constraints. As you are aware, NPOs heavily rely on funding from government and other sources to implement and scale their much-needed services in our communities. Since my deployment to the DST portfolio, I had come across many NPOs that are pioneering impactful intervention focused on addressing our country's challenges, such as job creation for young people, food security, and prevention programs for gender-based violence, which President Ramaphosa has since declared a national disaster. Amongst others, however, most of these NPOs cannot implement their programs at a scale due to limited resources. We note that. I am therefore pleased that Professor Pityana and your team to learn that under your guidance, the NLC board has resolved to prioritize funding for programs and interventions that advance the National Development Plan Vision 2030. With only 5 years remaining until the 2030 deadline, this is a timely intervention by the NLC as it complements ongoing national efforts to consolidate the gains of the last 31 years and address areas where we are lagging behind. One such issue which I want to take this opportunity to appeal for your urgent attention is the alarming increase in the reported case of child malnutrition in some parts of our country. We cannot let this happen under our watch. We are the first to acknowledge that as government, we cannot address this challenge alone. Without your support and cooperation, targeting areas where such cases are reported, we must act now to both save children's lives and to safeguard their future from the scars of the indignity of malnutrition. Over the last few years, we have been working with civil society and the Department of Home Affairs across the country to promote early child birth registration with particular focus on those eligible for child support grants. As a department, we stand ready to take counsel and work with you to address this and many other social challenges confronting our communities, including the unacceptable high levels of teenage pregnancy and underage drinking. As the sector, you see these challenges every working day in the communities where we operate. I know that this sector is driven by a dedicated group of men and women who represent the compensate and arm of our society. We also know that many of you work under challenging circumstances, providing essential services to the most vulnerable members of society. We do not take the work in families and communities across the length and breadth of our country for granted. We recognize that they put a lot of strength and commitment in making sure that they do that work. And this is why we continue to look for ways to create an enabling regulatory environment in which the NPO sector can thrive and significantly contribute on our national development agenda. The Non-Profit Organization Act of number 71 of 1997, as amended under General Laws Amendment Act of 2022, seeks to do exactly that. I call upon all of you to participate in this process. We acknowledge that this sector is a significant employer and provide essential pathway to employment through direct job creation, skills development, vocational training, and support for youth entrepreneurship. This is corroboration by the recent report released by the Center of African Philanthropy and Social Investment at the Wits Business School. The report titles contribution of the non-profit sector to the creation of dignified and fulfilling work for young people in Africa. A synthesis literary review highlights that the NPO sector is not just filling gaps, but actively shaping new pathways to the much-needed job opportunities for our young people. And this report underscores potential of collaborative approaches to address our national challenges and points to the NPO sector as an important part of the answer. We've already seen how youth-led NPOs are now embracing the digital and technology-driven work that is revolutionizing the sector by combining service delivery with advocacy and innovation, thus helping many young people to find and create meaningful work. We want the sector to take the lead and develop new programs focusing on climate change, waste management, and social entrepreneurship. This approach can ensure the sector's sustainability in the long run. Most importantly, the nonprofit sector must redefine traditional community development intervention, such as sustainable livelihoods, to address the complexities of the current economy and promote economic empowerment for vulnerable, impoverished, and rural communities. They need to develop new intervention and models that address economic vulnerability and respond to economic shocks. For instance, it is a well-known fact that most small business enterprises such as spaza shop, salons, and car washes are operated by and owned by foreign nationals, whilst most of our young people remain unemployed and idling, to an extent getting involved into sinister things that makes us to be where we are, with gender-based violence and femicide, for an example. These and many other issues I've alluded to are some of the interventions are currently under consideration as we draft the new NPO policies in consultation with the sector. As you may recall, the NPO Act implemented without a accompanying policy. This is what we've got to realize. We are aware and we are doing something. And now the department is addressing this gap. This presents an opportunity to the NPO sector to contribute to the development of the new NPO policy. The department will communicate details early next year as the consultation process gets underway. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, we have recently introduced a new registration and compliance monitoring system known as the DGNPO. The introduction of this new online system is an important and welcome development. It signals government willing to adapt, catch up with fourth industrial revolution, and align its systems with international standards at a time when the country can ill afford regulatory weaknesses. We are currently fixing some teething problems and will soon roll out the system across the country. At this time, thank you once again for the invitation to address this gathering and look forward to working with the NLC and its board, as well as the entire NPO sector, in taking forward the recommendation of this National Indaba. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and everybody. Thank you very much.
Minister, thank you very much for those words of encouragement. All right. There are some key announcements before I take the hands that were shown a little earlier. It is that time. But before that, I'd like to just make these announcements. Thank you, Chair. And the first announcement has to do with the Minister and the dignitaries that will be at the top table here, including some on the floor. They are going to leave the exhibition, and as they do that, they are going to be going to the NLC beneficiaries stand. There is what is called an exhibition stand, where they will experience some of the creativity of the NLC beneficiaries. Some of you would have contributed towards that, and that then is going to swiftly lead us to lunch that is going to take place between 1 o'clock, which is round about now, and 2 this afternoon. And then, when we come back from lunch, this is a very, very important announcement. So I'd like for you to please pay attention. We are going to then come back, but not come back here. We're going to break into commissions. Now, there are commissions 1 to 4, and I'm going to start with Commission 1. So please, if you have a pen, jot this down if you can. Commission 1 is called Support Compliance for NPOs and NPCs. That room can only handle 300 people. It is called King Shaka. So you're going to go to King Shaka, and that hall can only handle 300 people. What will be discussed there is support compliance for NPOs and NPCs. The group chair of that session, including the presenters, are Precious Mvulane and Mzwandile Ngubane. Commission number 2, Bridging the Digital Divide. Again, it can only handle 300 people. The room is called Silver Leaf. Commission 2, Bridging the Digital Divide. The room is called Silver Leaf, and it can only handle 300 people. The next one, I suspect we're going to see more people going to this one. It's called Sustainability Models for Civil Society. This is Commission number 3, Sustainability Models for Civil Society. This one, 600 people can be accommodated there, and the chairperson and presenters of this particular session are going to be Mr. Tulani Chefuta and Ms. Dipulelo Mutsumi. The room there, it's called Terminal B. So Terminal B will be where Sustainability Models and Civil Society Commission takes place. Then the last commission, Funding Focus Areas. 300 people can be accommodated there, and the chair and presenters of this particular one are Ms. Chiki Moffat Mubu and Ms. Habiba Khadin. I hope I've pronounced these words or these names correctly. I apologize if I'm butchering your name, and I'm apologizing in advance. So the presenters and the chair of this committee, Chiki Moffat Mubu and Ms. Habiba Khadin. I hope I've said that correctly. All right. Now, the venue, it is called Acacia Chamber. Thank you for that swift reminder. Acacia Chamber. It means that you're still alert. I don't know how you've managed this, because I'm basically hungry, and that's why I can't think right now. Okay. All right. Now, let's get the mic roving. And I did say I will accommodate 1, 2, 3 hands if the people that wanted to ask questions earlier still have the energy to do so. All right. The minister spoke about the G20 and declarations. I know that some people want a declaration to come out of this session as well. So we're going to have to handle that. All right. Can we get the mic, please? I will start with the hands from the back there, because these hands were there previously. So can I start at the back there, please? I see a hand. There's a gentleman with glasses on. Please, if the microphone could go there. I see people running. Okay, there's a microphone already here. Please go ahead, sir. I see you here. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, ngiyabonga. Angibingelele phakathi la endaweni. Ngisacela indlebe bakwethu. Lo khulumayo ugodongwa nemthethwa. I'm a filmmaker by profession. I'm an independent filmmaker. Program director must first start by declaring that we are very frustrated ukuthi we have people that come and present AI generated reports, and then they present them as if facts. We are not here in this Indaba to get a resolution that is going to be generated by AI, but we want solutions. We want transformation, not only for the sector, but particularly for us as South Africans. So, sicela ukuthi indlela esesicekelele phansi ngakhona ilungiswe leyo nto leyo. Bese nje engikucelayo nje ngivala ngoba phela okukuningi sekukhulunyiwe akusekho isikhathi sokuwela emuva. Sicela ukuthi sithi masihamba la sihambe kukhona i-declaration esiyenziwe. Because we don't want to go back home empty-handed and to communities and not have anything to say to them. We're deployed here by communities to represent them, and when we go back home, we must give answers when questions are brought to us. So, Stella nje ukuthi kube khona i-declaration ne-resolution. If we have to submit terms of reference, sikhombiseni ukuthi sisubmitha kubani so that konke lokho esikusondezayo kukwazi ukuthi kufike la esifisa ukuthi iye khona. Ngiyabonga.
Sibonga kakhulu Baba, thank you very much indeed. For those of you who may not have heard, and I'm going to paraphrase the gentleman, you're welcome to contradict me if you feel I am not interpreting correctly. So the first complaint has to do with AI-generated reports that are being presented here as facts. That needs to be corrected. That's what the gentleman is pointing out. And at the end, I did say, it's almost a reminder of the G20 summit, that this forum, once it comes to an end, there has to be a declaration. You will know what that is. And I suspect these are all going to be ventilated fully in the commissions. While I then take the other hand. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tony. I don't have questions, I always have solutions. My name is Tebo Hostatu, I'm from the United Civil Society in Action, UCSA. We've been raising a lot of issues, and I thought it's important that plenary captures this. One of the key resolutions that must come out of here is to, for the board, and I'm glad the board members are here, for the commissioner, all of them must understand that it will be a travesty of justice if we don't agree that after 3 years you have shut people's organizations' accounts and you have not investigated as you said you would. It's only fair that you unfreeze those accounts with immediate effect. You've had 3 years, you've killed organizations, you've frozen their accounts, you said SIU will contact them for investigation. It has not happened. In fact, as a matter of fact, some of them are only getting communication only now from some service provider, 3 years on, for them to provide information that they should have presented many years ago. So please, this is the injustice of the highest order, that you shut organizations' account, you kill them even further. That's point one. Point number two, another issue is about the system. That Tutuga system failed many organizations. If they are honest here, many of them never got funded because of that system. So one of the second resolution we must agree on, there's nothing wrong with digitizing systems. There's absolutely nothing wrong. But you have left so many behind. So whilst you digitize, we appeal to you. If you really care, make sure that people can be allowed to submit alternative applications through paper-based, the way it has been done. You have to do that. You have failed. NLC, you have failed in your mandate. I don't know how much you have distributed so far, because I can tell you, you have received less than 10% of applications from organizations. Where is the money going? Where is that money? Because that money is not going to go to organizations because they were shut out of applications. So if you care, you will reopen that application, another call, with paper-based as we transit into digital. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
And stop threatening.
Message received. Thank you very much. Are there any more hands? Okay, so let's come this side now, and these will be the last few. Okay, I see one more hand there. Quickly, sir, before you run this side, please just turn back a little. There is one last hand there. If we could please make it short.
All right, thank you, Program Director. My name is Ofen Zanani from Mahikeng, representing Global Enviro Foundation. Oh yes. All right, thanks. My concern was a remark made by Miss or Mrs. Lindy Mkwanazi, where she said ex-convicts and law offenders might not be eligible for opening NPOs or even applying for funding. Unfortunately, I come from a community with a very high crime rate, and we're trying to bring about a difference, and we're trying to inspire the little ones who have unfortunately fell victim to crime because of the poverty in the area. So what are we saying about the youth that has been found as law offenders? Are we saying they don't have a future in South Africa? Or are we saying, as the gentleman sitting in the middle said, that as South Africans we should be very happy and we should work hand in hand to build a better South Africa? Are we saying that we're going to sideline these people and they don't have a future as much as we over here? Look how old we are, but we still have futures. That's my concern. I'm not going to go any further with that.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for keeping it short. All right. We are going to now come to this side, and these will be the last hands. We are at 1:04. I'm hoping that each person will make their point quickly so that we are able to break for lunch and then we have enough time for the commissions. Can I just say, as the mic gets to the next person, that any organizational specific queries, there is an NLC help desk right at the back. So if you have an organization specific issue, there is a help desk right at the back and you will be assisted there. All right, please go ahead, ma'am.
Ndiyasibulisela ndibulela kakhulu uba ingxenye yalomhlanganyo kulonyaka. Ndingumama orana iECD Center ndisuka eCape Town. Sinengxaki. Ingxaki esinayo bendingathanda ukuthi elalate lakwa SARS uba likhona. Sinengxaki yongahoyakali kakuhle. Si-endaphe sesincedwa ngendlela ezingezizwanga. Sifikelwa zizinto ezithi siyatyala kwa SARS. Ngoku ndiyothuka xa esithi yena apha iNPOs azibhatali. Mna lo ndime kule ndawo ndifikelwe into ethi ndityala 17,000 rand. Ndirana le ECD, i-school fees 350 ngenyanga umntana. Ngenxa yoba indawo esihlala kuzo zindawo eziphuwa ezihluphekayo. Ndarejistarisha kuba kwakuthiwa masirejistarishe kwa SARS. Andiyazi bantu bandarejistarisha ngoluphi uhlobo. Ayindimanga ndodwa nabanye bafikelwa zizinto ekuthiwa batyala ma 8,000 i-70,000 andiyazi ba ndiyizame njani kodwa ndiendephe ndiyibhatala because kuba ngasa la mali iyenyuka kuba ngasa la mali iyenyuka ndiba ngafowuna akho mntu ukwazi ukundicacisela kakuhle into ba le 70,000 kuthiwa ndiyayityala yeyantoni na. Kwi-NPO siyareporta ekubeni basiripotile izinto andiyana noba bayazilahla noba bazenza njani. Kuthi xa kufuneka into yobana masi-aplaye apha kwalotha ufumaniseka into yoba uneminyaka eyadlulayo kodwa oyaziyo ukuthi wawuyifakile iripoti yakho. Kuthiwe zange u-2015 uripota njani u-2024 ungazange umripote u-2010 no-2015 owadlulayo eminye iminyaka ube uyiripotile. Siyacela masekukwenziwa ngolhlobo senziwa ngalo. Izinto zethu mazihoywe mazikhathaleleke ngoba i-community esisebenza kuzo zi-community ezihluphekayo for into bangoku sivaleleke into basingakwazi ufundraiser sifundraisele ezisikolo ngenxa ngomsebenzi ongahoywayo ngabantu ezi-ofisini zabo. Enkosi.
Thank you very much, Mama Enkosi. Quick translation before the next speaker takes the mic. The lady runs an ECD center. I take it as Early Childhood Development Center. And the query is a simple one. She is told that she owes SARS 70,000 rand. All right, please take.
When you finish, I'll respond.
All right. Well, you already have a commitment from the chairperson who says he is going to respond to some of the concerns that are being raised. So thank you, Chair, for volunteering. All right, so the next hand, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Xoli, Program Director. My name is Kumbuzo Mpanza. chairperson of Sanco nationally, but also part of the Netlek community constituency. A quick reminder to you, you forget to mention the chairperson of second group, which is Skhumbuzo Ngcobo. I'm jealous because I'm Skhumbuzo. So,
Ngiyabonga, Baba. Thank you very much for reminding me. Thank you indeed.
no, we want to appreciate the NLC commissioner and greetings to the minister and the chair of the board. Two things that we want to propose to form part of the resolutions of this NLC at the end. One, we really appreciate that the NLC has organized this event at a national level. We know that it's going to go down the provincial road shows. Our request to be part of the resolution here is that when they do those provincial road shows, they must do that with the civil society, as they've done it here at a national level. So there must be consistency. So that's the first resolution. The last one is that we are proposing that with immediate effect, the NLC meet with the civil society apex with the aim of consolidating the relationship with those structures going forward. Those two resolutions. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Baba Skhumbuzo Ngcobo, Siyabonga Mapoloba. I will mention your group because you are the chair and the presenter is also there. Now that you've reminded me, while the mic moves, Mr. Skhumbuzo Ngcobo is going to be at Commission 2, which is that of bridging the digital divide. So he'll be the chair, while Andre Kitzinger, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is going to be the presenter. Okay, the next hand.
Good morning, Program Director and honorable ministers, honorable councillors, and also the CEO and the chairperson of the board, Lottery. Program Director, I greet all the house in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, beloved. My name is Cardinal Archbishop Dr. Mudiri Patrick Shole. I am the Far East African Continent Cardinal, and I'm a president of SOSIC. It represents faith-based organizations and the civil society in South Africa. I just wanted to correct something. I'm not asking any strategical questions. From the chairperson, already alluded the values and missions of the lottery. I'm very much disappointed, beloved. It's two questions. One, you have invited guests of civil society organization, but you failed to endorse them, their presence. As I'm sitting here, I'm the father of the church and of the government and the civil society. I'm not an honorary member, but no one introduced me and then recognized my presence. The church protocol observed. I've got ministers of government in my church and civil society, including yourself and others. You are in my church. So when you said protocol observed, including me, and what does that mean? No. Next time when you invite me, make sure that you know that you have invited me. Yes. Number two, I'm not going to read all what the chairperson of the board have said. It's very much impressive, but I wanted to highlight something. In terms of the human justice,
the social development, the ethics and moral fiber principles. They are values of the national lotteries as a statutory bodies is to regulate and empower the communities on the base of the civil society, faith-based, and other organizations. But there is something I wanted to highlight to the board. Beloved, South Africa is a Christian society. 80% of the people in South Africa are Christians. Please, please, don't promote gays and lesbians by allowing people to share the room. Let them do it at their own if they want to share. Because I was requested to share a room as a cardinal. And then if it's written in the invitations, people who decided not to come.
All right.
If it's written in the invitation that you will be able to share the room, then they will make their own decision in terms of the Constitution to
Archbishop.
respect the Constitution. Thank you, Program Director. I'm covered.
Archbishop, thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Let's move the microphone quickly to the next person.
Thank you very much. Order, comrades, order, comrades.
All right. Please, can we settle? All right.
Yeah,
I'd like for you to please make the point quickly. You're coming in for the second time. The chair wants to respond.
Yeah, program director, I think you're becoming out of order yourself. Because you are rushing me, we're here to engage. I allowed the chairperson to speak. He even said he likes speaking too much. I allowed him to speak, I was listening. So also allow me to speak. Earlier on, I was not speaking, I was raising an issue. Chairperson, we just want to thank you for always being point blank. We've met with you. We've met several times with Major D as well. So we appreciate the fact that the NLC is trying to fight corruption, and also you are trying to digitize the NLC. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you must allow the NLC to leave everybody behind. So some of us, we feel that some of your processes that you are introducing, they are leaving a lot of NGOs behind. Because first of all, I'm not going to talk much about the system. The system, we don't have a problem with it, but we're saying to you, also allow those all Magogos and all those other NPOs which want to submit directly. And also, the NLC chairperson under your board, I agree, we must not lie to you, we must tell you straight as it is. It has been weaponized to even target people. Because we are aware, chairperson, that there are projects that are being run, and the board members, they are focusing more on penalizing people instead of developing and building people. You need to understand as the NLC that you are working with the poor of the poorest. It must not just be on paper, because indeed people are speaking good English, but you need to realize the fact that the NLC, most of the beneficiaries are people on the ground, which this digitization is leaving them out. We have a lot of NGOs, chairperson, under your watch that has closed down, which means there are a lot of people and the poor and the kids in rural areas, and ECDs and charities have shut down. Issue number 2, there's this issue of NLC, of strategic marginalization. White people are getting funded a lot of monies. Black NPOs, they are funded small monies, 150, 300,000. Even in terms of the payment processes, the people are not paid the same. You will be paid once, then before they pay you the balance, they're going to ask so many things. When you look at on their website, you see one organization has been paid within 2 weeks, and we ask ourselves if these people even completed their work. So we're saying, let's not have systematic marginalization of the people, because we are supporting you, chairperson. Supporting you doesn't mean we're going to always clap hands. We're going to disagree to agree in principle. So we are saying the reason we requested this platform is because in this platform we have NEDLEC. We have all the most important people, and we want them to also listen to our grievances. And we appreciate chairperson and the commissioner for listening to us, because we're not just here to eat lunch. I heard Koli talking about lunch. I don't care about lunch. I'm here to engage and build a sector that works for me. What is the point of us coming here in these numbers when we go home, we are still affected by the same problems that are there? And we are saying to you, Chairperson, this issue that we've been raising, which was not being addressed, and the fact that when people apply, your adjudication committees which are here, they are not funding people based in principle. You find an organization, for example, like ours that has got 100,000 members, is applying for 5 million, is funded 500,000. Then an individual or a small group of 3 people, they are funded 10 million. It doesn't make practical sense. It simply means that they are funding themselves. So we need to be able to deal with these issues. So I'm just saying to the board, look into these issues. Even when we write complaints to you, stop sidelining us and neglecting us, because we will end up mobilizing ourselves. You see what I like myself to is that I've served many politicians. People are premiers, they are MECs, they've used us, but I thank them for teaching me one thing, to be a good mobilizer and to be a ground force. That's why earlier on I said to you, this program is not an Indaba program. And the Reverend is also right in terms of the issues that says, if you look at the people who are speaking, you don't have civil society speaking. How do you know about our issues? Because you're supposed to have at least a representative from civil society. It can't just be that the people who can speak facts, the people who knows about us, can speak about us without us. We are saying to you, Chairperson, there is nothing about us without us. Thank you very much.
No, thanks very much, Chair.
All right.
And thanks for the opportunity. Tsepo Mashiane, again, and I hope I'm part of the all protocol observed echelons. I represent Creatives Congress Movement. I just want to make a small observation, Chair, as I spoke about the program. There are a number of musical items that were not presented to us. I don't know why is that. And for me, it becomes very direct, because I represent the people who are supposed to be doing that. And I thought that maybe it's something you need to look into in the future. If they are not going to perform, let us know that they are not. But if they're in the program, let them perform. Chair, the last thing is that now that the issue of the declaration has gained traction, and there seems to be general acceptance of the proposal, which was not in the program, I therefore want to propose that a tax team emerging from these groups here, of people who are here, is put together. Because we can't come up with a proposal and allow somebody somewhere to go and draft it for us. We've proposed this, and we're putting forward names to the chairperson as we live here, of people who must make it to that tax team, who are going to draft that declaration, working with whomever is working, and we will together own up on it. And I like what the chairperson said. The chairperson said in his closing words, you need to hold us accountable. He said that. I wrote it in a red ink here. So I think that will help us, that we don't only hold you alone, Chairperson, accountable, but even the tax team that would have drafted those that declaration, whatever goes into it, they themselves must be mentioned by names, and they themselves must be pursued if that particular declaration is not achieved. So we will do so. I think we'll consult with whomever is here. We are going to be part of the team that drafts that declaration. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you indeed. All right. Let's hand over to the chairperson who'd like to respond before we take lunch.
Chair, thank you very much. I thank everybody who has had a chance to say something here following a very, very rich and full morning. I recognize that not everyone has been able to say something, because otherwise the real important work of the day is in the commissions, and that is where we want to hear your voice. However, I intend to request the Commission and the executives of the NLC to kindly place boxes all over the place for suggestions and complaints. And please use those boxes for your suggestions and complaints, provided, no, I recognize that not everybody will get a chance, provided you have your name and address so that we can respond to you directly. That, I think, is the best way of dealing with complaints and suggestions, because I could hear there are suggestions in the place. The second thing I want to say is that the National Lotteries Commission is a custodian of the National Lotteries Distribution Trust Fund. The National Lotteries Distribution Trust Fund is made up of 29% of the net value of the ticket that you buy, that is bought by those who participate in the lottery. Now, that amount in the end means that about 1.5 billion rand is available for distribution to worthy good causes. I say this in order for us to understand that there are limitations to what the money that is available can do. And what the SIU, which the President appointed to investigate, discovered, is that 1.5 billion rand from the National Lotteries Commission Distribution Trust Fund has been corruptly used and did not go to do the purposes for which it was intended. Some of us enriched ourselves to the detriment of others who probably need more than we do of the resources that have been used. As I speak, the National Lotteries Distribution, this SIU, has actually signaled a number of organizations, NPOs, that have in fact benefited themselves illegally from the NLC funds, has even flagged a number of the beneficiaries in those institutions. Now that means that we have to have a limitation that we cannot keep giving funds to those who actually are recognized by the SIU to have corruptly benefited from the funds that were available. Our hope is that those funds will be restored to the National Lotteries Development Fund and will be made available for the needs of those who need it most. So you can understand that right as I speak, at least 2 cases that I can recall are before the courts of people who received funds from the National Lotteries and actually the money did not do what was intended. There are cases in Kimberley, if I'm not mistaken, and elsewhere. So what I'm talking about is very real. It's not fiction. It's very real. Until we pledge to one another that we will defend to the hilt the right of the funds of the National Lotteries Commission to be used for those who need it most. We will not tolerate corruption and malfeasance in the resources that are meant to help the very people that we are committed to help. So it is important that when accounts are frozen, they are frozen for good reason. They are frozen by the SIU in terms of law. In the last couple of weeks, the banks have informed us that they've got a trail of monies that were deposited, not many years ago, were deposited to certain accounts, and those monies, almost the same day, they were moved between different other accounts for purposes that were never intended when those funds were given. So it still happens. It happens today. The only difference now is that there is no environment that enables it to happen without it being stopped. So accounts are being stopped because the banks have stopped their accounts. Accounts are being stopped because SIU have stopped the accounts. In fact, SIU have made it clear in some cases that if monies are paid to certain of the individuals that we have flagged, we will go to court and stop the National Lotteries Commission from doing so. So nothing is being done out of malicious purposes. I can assure you, nothing of that nature. But there is a big cleanup. The participation of the SIU, the banks, and ourselves to make sure that there must be a very determined process of cleaning up so that the resources that we have available can be done. Now, the unfortunate thing is this, that as I told you, the resources that we now have are something in the order of 1.5 billion rand. In fact, actually, out of that, we are only able to fund barely a third of the applications that we receive. So there are many other funds that, from what we have, we can only fund what we have resources for. And the way in which it works, virtually, it works on a first-come, first-served basis. Now, the problem is that each project is assessed on its own merits. There's no comparison with another. It's assessed on its own merits. And if it fulfills the call that has been stated for the year and the resources are available, it will be done. So we're now having to look again at how best we can actually make the resources we have go as far as we can. The genius of the National Lotteries Commission is that it doesn't do what might be done elsewhere to say, okay, we've got a pot of money of R1 million, we've got 300 beneficiaries who want money, let us divide this money for a long. Because if we do that, then you'll never have enough money to do what you want to do. And nobody will have enough money. I have a wonderful story. Apparently, Madiba, when he was president, raised money for the veterans, Mkondo Wesizwe veterans. And in typical Madiba fashion, I think it was 13 million rand, called the veterans and said, okay, we now have 13 million rand. What do you think we should do? How do we deal with this and make it available to yourselves? To his horror, he was told, oh, no, Madiba, just divide it among us and we'll share the 13 million rand. And Madiba says, what happens when it gets finished? What's going to happen? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the resources that we have can stretch to such an extent that we can help the people who are most in need. That's what we try to do. That's the philosophy that we have at the moment. Finally, for the first time, the Auditor General has given the National Lotteries Commission a clean audit. Do you know what causes that? It's because of compliance. We've made sure that every bit of money that is paid for a reason that can be justified in terms of the paper trail that we have. And within the policies of the NLC. And it's taken us a long time to actually check everything and counter-check and make sure, if possible, never again must we get material irregularities and all of that stuff. So we're now having to work within a regime of accountability. So it's not up to us that we can give so-and-so so much and give so-and-so that much as we like, because we are audited by the Auditor General every year. And we have worked so hard to make sure that according to the PFMA, we remain accountable. Now, I'm a trustee of the National Lotteries Development Fund. Each of the members of the board are trustees. You know what that means? It means that any of the money of the National Lotteries Development Fund, if it is misspent, I have to pay it from my pocket. I have to tell you, I do not have money to pay monies that have been abused because I'm poor myself. Now the law says I have a fiduciary responsibility. Not everybody, but I have a fiduciary responsibility. Each and every one of the members of the board have a fiduciary responsibilities. If money is abused, and I can't account for it, I can be made to pay from my pocket. Doesn't matter whether, if I don't have it, I go to jail. Now, I've spent enough time in jail. I don't know if many of you understand. I have no desire to go to jail again. And some of you have never seen jail, but I have to tell you that I have spent time in jail. Not because I've stolen anybody's money, but because I was trying to fight for what we have today, the liberation of this country. Now, I'm not going to go to jail because somebody has stolen money that I fought for. Some of my friends died for. At this stage of my life, it's not going to happen. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, thank you very much indeed. Well, what is left for me to announce to you right now is the venues of lunch, where lunch will be had. There is the Clovers Green. We also have Serengeti, Oak Chamber, and Pumulong. Those are 4 venues: Clovers Green, Serengeti, Oak Chamber, and Pumulong. And remember, when we come back from lunch, which will now be at 2:30, given that we're sitting at just after 1:30. So we'll come back at 2:30 and go into those venues that were announced earlier. Thank you very much indeed for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. As you make your way, please can I kindly ask you to leave behind the headsets. The headsets that you were using for translations, if you could leave those behind. Thank you very much.